The Presence, released in the year 2024, is a psychological horror thriller film, and it is not just an average ghost story, but it's a kind of very emotional and psychological drama that is told from a perspective of a spirit, which is a unique thing, and it is just deeply connected to the protagonist, that is Jennifer. So we see at the start of the movie, we are introduced to the Jennifer. She's the protagonist female character of this movie. We see here in the arrival scene where Jennifer arrives at a very secluded lake house and with her emotional distant parents, and they're supposed to be on a healing retreat actually. But it's clear from the first moment that none of them are just truly present there. So the atmosphere is just heavy with just unspoken pain. The camera perspective is locked and often from one corner of a room, suggesting that we are watching through the eyes of an unseen entity or unseen ghost or something like that. And we see that thing is just titled as presence in this movie, and that is what make this movie a unique watch. And because it's from a perspective of a spirit, not from perspective of us, and the father is just polite but avoids any emotional conversation, and the mother on the other hand is quite jarring, I guess. She's colder and quick to shut down anything related to their past, and Jennifer seems lost and withdrawn and slightly paranoid. The first act is slow and quiet, actually, setting the emotional tone and introducing the mysterious perspective from which we see everything unfold. Along with Jennifer, we see her brother and the parents. All they are living in that so-called presence or that ghosted house, and we see Jennifer begins to notice strange things in the house, and her mug isn't where she left it, and her journal pages are just flipped. A door creak opens in the middle of the night, and she's unaware of that. And these aren't any classic horror movie scares actually, and they are very subtle signs that something is watching them or something is just haunting them, that is beyond their perception and maybe even trying to communicate at some point of time. We see importantly the film never shows a ghost or apparition that just appears out of nowhere actually, but the uneasiness is just built purely through the movement, sound design, and actually most of the camera action actually in the movie just brought the spirit to the life actually. That is what I personally feel, and the presence isn't just menacing, but it just feels curious, as if it's trying to remember something or someone and trying to get some kind of indication. We get our first flashback where Jennifer is lying on the grass beside her sister, laughing, and her sister, whose name is never said aloud by the parents, is vibrant and kind of short. But the memory flickers and the scene distorts and fades, and now Jennifer wakes up disoriented. She tries to bring up her sister at breakfast, but her mother cuts off. And let's not dwell, she says, and it's here we realize the family has never properly mourned actually with each other, and they have buried the past instead of confronting it. And the buried grief is what fuels the presence in the house. The camera continues to follow the family and always from a fixed distance actually, like someone is just quietly observing them and doing nothing but just a plain observation. In one scene, Jennifer cries alone in her room. The camera slowly pushes forwards, almost hesitantly, as if the spirit wants to reach out but doesn't know how to. And later that night, her door opens slightly, a breeze moves the curtains, and her sister's photo falls face down. Jennifer looks around, unsettled, but doesn't scream, and she whispers, "If someone is there, can you please answer me," or something like that. And she just talks randomly in the air, and but the presence won't respond it anyway, and it can't because it just observed. We see that the friend of his brother just appear out of nowhere in Jennifer's house, and he just tries to build a connection with the family, and he just tries to get intimate and kind of having a very good bond with Jennifer, and they have quite a good few time with each other, because he was just visiting their house often, and we see that he's just trying to playing a kind of a jarring character, and kind of just giving mental support or emotional support that is needed for Jennifer to overcome all these things. We also see that Jennifer finds a hidden compartment in her sister's old dresser. Inside are the sketches, notes, and a journal. Through the entries, we see her sister's slow emotional unraveling. That is loneliness, anxiety, pressure to be perfect, and a growing sense of hopelessness. One entry reads that even when I scream, no one hears me. And another entry reads that I am invisible in this family. And this writing hit Jennifer hard. She begins to cry, realizing that she never truly saw the pain her sister was in. That night, a line appears in Jennifer's own journal, written in a very different handwriting, that you see me now. So, this is kind of very unsettling and kind of very indirect indication about the thing. Jennifer becomes consumed with her sister's memory. She accuses her parents of hiding things from her. Her mother refuses to speak, but her father just breaks. He admits that Jennifer's sister has attempted suicide once before, right there at the lake house, that is years ago, and they never told Jennifer to protect her. The revelation just shatters Jennifer's image of the past. And you didn't protect her, you forgot her. She says the presence becomes more active and active as the time passes. In the movie, an object falls. A shadow moves through the hallways, not aggressively. It's as if the spirit is just reacting to the truth that is finally just being spoken. Jennifer falls into a very kind of, we see the vivid and just a confronting dreamlike sequence or the dream, and she's in the lake house actually, but it's a different kind of a brighter and surreal. Her sister appears standing by the windows. She doesn't speak, just watches, and Jennifer begins to cry that I am sorry I wasn't there. I didn't know how much you were hurting. The sister slowly walks towards her and whispers, I waited for you and I'm just waiting for you right now, and it has been a very long time since I'm doing this. Jennifer wakes up just sobbing. For the first time, she fully understands the weight of her absence, and not only physical absence, but it's the emotional one. In the morning, we see that Jennifer takes her sister's belonging to the edge of the lake, the journal, a sketch, and a locket. She speaks to the water, offering the forgiveness and asking it to return. And as she drops the item into the water, the environment changes, the wind stills, the light camera becomes warmer. The camera, still watching, begins to drift upward as if the presence is rising finally at a peace. We see the family gather silently on the porch, no one speaks, but the energy is just different. And all these psychological and kind of horror cliche things are happening at the same time. So they cannot even understand that what the hell is happening. Even between these all things were happening, they called the kind of inspection officer, and there were a person and a lady, so a man and a woman, and they both started to inspect the things around in a house, that what is something wrong with the house. And when they are near a mirror, we see a large wooden mirror. When they are passing through that, they experience the presence of the spirit. They experience this so-called presence, and they are just frightened by this. And this also confirms that the female protagonist Jennifer is not hallucinating or something like that. That this thing just truly exists, and we get the second indication from that inspection team. The house no longer creaks, the camera stops moving, and the presence has lifted. We see the final shot is from deep within the woods, looking forward the lake house in the distance. It's a completely still, and it's no music. It's just natural sound, and the camera lingers, then slowly pulls back. It's the very last goodbye from the spirit's perspective, having finally let go of the world it couldn't continue. As we see that in the final scene of the movie, actually in the climax movie, because as the object sinks, the mood just shifts, and the wind is still, and the forest are just quiet around them, and there is no dramatic music or supernatural flash. Instead, there is a very overwhelming sense of peace, and the camera certainly floats upward, mimicking the spirit's release. And this ghost just titled as the titular. The titular presence has been Jennifer's deceased sister all along. She never wanted revenge, she simply wanted to be remembered, acknowledged, and her story just be told. And Jennifer's apology earlier, that I am sorry I didn't listen, I didn't see you, was the key to just setting the spirit free. It's only when she fully releases her guilt and grief, and when she speaks her sister's name aloud, then the presence just begins to let go. In the final scene, we see the Jennifer's parents join her on the porch, watching the lake in silence, and for the first time in the film, all these characters are still and not fidgeting, not walking away, not avoiding each other at the point of the time. They just gather and they just think that what is happening with them, and they are just discussing the things all aloud. The mother, who had previously refused to talk about the sister, is finally just trying to confront the grief that is head on, and the father, who we see earlier seen as emotionally absent, is now simply they are no longer avoiding the past, and there are no hugs or tearful monologues, but in presence, silent silence isn't emptiness, it's a transformation. The family hasn't moved on, but they have begun to move through their plans. We see the very last image that is very long and still shot from the woods, showing the quiet house and its view from actually the perspective of the spirit point of view. It slowly pans back and then cuts to the black. We see that this represents the final departure of the presence, the spirit which just lingered because of unresolved emotions and now can leave. But it also suggests something else, the idea that spirits just don't haunt places actually, but they haunt the emotion, the grief, the what we can say the anger, regret, silence and all these things. And once they are released, so is the spirit. I think the ending tells us that the grief doesn't end with time, and it ends when we acknowledge it. When we speak, when we cry, when we share and remember, the presence is not about the ghost in the traditional sense actually, to the point of this movie, and it's about the emotional ghost people live with and how facing them is the only way to truly just heal and overcome around it. Jennifer didn't need an exorcist, she just needed honesty. She needed to be present with her pain and with the memory of her sister. And in doing so, she gave her sister and herself the peace they both deserved. I think the movie just delivers at par performance related to the actors as well as writing of the movie. It's very crisp and first time when you see the movie and it's kind of feel like a very low budget film from the 90s or 2000s. But actually, when we just as the time passes in the movie and we just connect with the character and we feel the pain of the character with them, as we dive, as we thrive with them. So the kind of emotional connection, especially with the female character, the female protagonist Jennifer, is actually felt most of the times. And overall, the movie was, I guess, good. And some of the things might have been improved. Like some of the camera shots were just kind of too flickery and kind of too short. And I think some of the camera works were just great, especially when we were shown the whole thing from the perspective of the spirit. I think it was great, and overall it just feel a very good movie. It's a very kind of relaxing movie actually. It's not a typical ghost or horror cliche we see that here nowadays in the movie. Not just a typical jump scare or something like that, or a weird story. It's actually a really connecting, deep and emotional, kind of having emotional impact story. And if we see about the symbolism in this movie, actually the presence itself, that the spirit is the most, I think, the symbolism of the movie that just represents the ghost or the unseen presence. It symbolizes the unspoken grief and resolved trauma and emotional neglect at its peak, I think. And it's not a vengeful spirit when we see it's the emotional echo of a life that was just overlooked. And we see by using a fixed camera perspective, director just literally makes the audience experience what it feels likely to be unseen, to observe but not to be heard of. And that is the core feeling of the sister spirit. The presence is also a stand in front of internal guilt. Jennifer's guilt for not listening, her parents' guilt for emotional suppression, and it all manifests as this silent, watching energy. The lake is just central to the story, I guess, in the point of the symbolism and representing both memory and emotional depth. It's where trauma occurred in the past and where healing begins in the present. And by returning it to, the characters were forced to confront what they have tried to suppress. We see that Jennifer just offers her sister belongingness to the lake. It becomes an act of a kind of emotional surrender we see, and not to forget her but to just acknowledge her. And what are here also I think represents the emotional cleansing that is present between both, that acts as a bridge or connection thing between them. The spirit, the sister spirit, is not released through the ritual but through a emotional honesty and a symbolic offering. We see in much of the film's power, I think, come from the silence, because it's all silence most of the time. Dialogues are just sparse and emotional moments play out in long unspoken shots. The silence isn't just stylistic, it's a thematic kind of thing, and silence represents everything the family didn't say. The longer they go without speaking about the sister, the heavier the haunting actually becomes as the time passes. And we as audience are just more curious about that, what has happened with the sister, because there is no kind of description given by the other family members about the sister. So kind of creating curiosity in the mind of in the mind of the audience. But once the truth comes out, the silence just shifts from oppressive to peaceful. And stillness also plays a very huge role, I think. When the family is finally still together at the end, it's just not distracted or avoiding, I guess, it's just symbolizing the presence. If I talk about personal impact of the film, that I think it doesn't just aim to scare us, but it aims to haunt us emotionally, because its impact lies in how it forces the viewers to reflect on the emotional presence in their own life. So instead of delivering a kind of a twist or a horror payoff, the film's climax is emotionally released and a quiet achieving forgiveness that's both painful and healing at the same time. The film also, I think, critiques emotional separation with the families. It shows how silence becomes a kind of generational curse or haunting, and the parents don't talk about the daughter, thinking it's protective, but in doing so, they just erase her. And that the erasure become a wound that never heals until Jennifer finally says, "I remember, I am sorry." So this is what I think all about the movie Presence. If you like this video, do like and share and subscribe our channel for more such videos. Thank you for watching.